Well, it is currently 12:44 in the morning here in Salt Lake City, and even though tomorrow I have to wake up early because I'm going to be taking a flight down to LA to visit some of my friends, I am still going to be doing the review and look at these 11 games that happened on Saturday because, coming into today's, there was a lot of skeptical the fact that I might be able to do this review because I was worried the upload speed at this hotel I'm staying is going to be good at all, but it turns out that I actually uploaded my quick recap that I did right after the game between RSL versus Minnesota is over outside Rio Tinto Stadium, and it turns out the recap video that I uploaded was incredibly fast. Like, it only took 9 minutes for me to upload that video, and that seems like the upload speed here at this hotel is much faster than the one at home. So hence that's why I thought this gives me the opportunity to basically do the review tonight and basically upload it tonight. And besides, tomorrow when I do stay at a different hotel in LA, they don't actually offer free Wi-Fi, and I don't want to pay for the Wi-Fi to basically upload the review. And also that pretty much means that the Sunday review is going to have to be delayed because of that. But that being said, let us actually get into talking about the first of what would be 11 games to talk about. And also, I'm still wearing my Minnesota United jersey that I wore a couple of hours ago to watch that game against RSL, and I of course will talk a little bit more in depth in that game despite the fact that I did do a quick recap. But the first game we're going to talk about is the Chicago Fire taking on Montreal, and in the end, Montreal, they kind of stole this one against the Chicago Fire as they were able to pull off a 1-0 victory and score a late goal in this game to grab all 3 points on the road. Calvo did have a chance early in the 10th minute to flick one high. And also, by the way, since I am doing this on kind of like a mini board and basically I only put like the goals that was scored in this game, basically I'm going to just read off of my notebook where I basically take the notes in terms of what happened in the game. I'll basically just kind of read it down here since basically I cannot fit all these notes into this tiny travel board that I have. And another thing that I also want to quickly mention is that I do apologize if the quality of this video is not that good, and also the mic quality is not that good because I'm not using the usual Blue Yeti microphone that I always use at home. I was thinking about bringing it here at the hotel, but it turns out it couldn't really quite fit when I was packing all the things, so I decided to just go with my backup kind of microphone, so hence that's why the quality is a little bit different compared to what you hear before. And also I am recording this in a bit of a room, so you do kind of hear a little bit of an echo right now in this room. But going back to this game, Calvo did try to flick one high in the 10th minute before Shuttleworth did had to deny Bjorn Johnson, and that was just a sequence where the Fire's defense just kind of fell asleep. Like, they literally allowed Bjorn Johnson to go through on goal, but Bobby Shuttleworth was able to deny him there. After a slow 20 minutes into this game, I thought chances would start to come for both of these teams. Mihailovic did drive one high in the 22nd minute before Calvo once again got to the end of a set piece, but like the last one, he flicks that one wide in the 25th minute. And then after, we had both teams kind of had some chances around the 20th minute mark, yeah, things kind of started to slow down a little bit, and that's when both teams were started to kind of just settle for a no scoreline heading into halftime, and that of course is the case. So we head to the second half. Stojanovic hit one wide from 25 yards out in the 55th minute before Diop absolutely robbed Fabian Herbers, who was through on goal, but unfortunately Diop made a good save to deny him there in the 74th minute. Then Diop denied Madron, who hits one on the volley in the 83rd minute, and as the game winds down, you were thinking the Fire were most likely the one that is going to get the winning goal, but instead Montreal, against the run of plays, would score the winning goal of this game, and it's Mason Toye that scores from Brisson and Waterman. So thank you, Minnesota, in terms of the goal that Mason Toye scored. And as I said, that is the winning goal of this game. And despite the fact that the Fire did push one late in this game, there was also a very controversial play in this game, or a very controversial call late in this game, where Wyatt Osberg thought that he scored the equalizer and scored the first goal for the Chicago Fire, but the goal of course was disallowed for offside. And I look at it a couple of times on the replay of that, and I still don't know how in the world that is actually an offside on the Chicago Fire. Like, it's definitely not the one that Onspur basically hits that one in. It must be the one that was before the play, but even then, I just don't see any offside during that sequence too. So that was kind of weird. The fact that of course was called offside, and I'm pretty sure Chicago Fire fans are very upset about that. But at the end of the day, the Fire weren't able to rescue a draw, and they suffer another loss in this game. And the shots in this one, 14 shots compared to 6 that Montreal has, 6 shots on goal compared to 3 that Montreal has, 4 shots off target compared to 2 that Montreal has, 4 shots that was blocked compared to 1 that Montreal has, and possession-wise, 52% possession compared to 48% possession that Montreal has in this game. And this game just feels like it's just one of those games for the Chicago Fire where they tends to be the more dominant side, and you think that they of course got the win in their bag, and then one lapse of concentration late in this game was the difference and pretty much cost them in this game. And if you're a Chicago Fire fan, I can understand your misery, because that has to be very frustrating. The fact that it seemed like this team is inventing a lot of ways to lose, and this is probably the most frustrating way to lose, knowing the fact that you were by far the better team in this game. But that being said, moving on, in the next match is going to be the Red Bulls. So the Red Bulls snapped Orlando City with unbeaten run in this game as they won 2-1 in this one. Now, granted, Orlando City did not have Nani in this game, and it is pretty evident that Orlando City dearly missed Nani during this one. But early in this game, Galese was able to rob Nealis, who had a free header. The Red Bulls, I thought, in the early part of this game were the better team. Junior Urso did hit one wide, as Orlando was only getting their first shot on goal during that shot. I mean, Orlando City was kind of sleepwalking coming out of this game. And then in the 35th minute, we got ourselves our opening goal. It's Caden Clark that scored from Kamala. What a ball this was from Patrick Kamala, who just sets it on a plate to Caden Clark, who basically tapped this one in. And I think now we know that not only the fact that Caden Clark can score absolutely banger of a goal, but he can also finish those tap-in kind of goal. And I'll tell you what, this kid stock, I know he's going to be sold to RB Leipzig at the end of the year, but his stock must be continue to go up with the performance that he has with the Red Bulls this season. And also, that would be the only goal of the first half, as the Red Bulls would head to halftime with a 1-0 lead. In the second half, they almost made it 2-0 when Galese had to deny Yearwood from long range 1 minute into the second half, before Kamala did drag his shot wide, as the Red Bulls, they were definitely looking to try to get that second goal. And this is also where I wrote Orlando clearly missed Nani badly, because they just could not do anything going forward on the attack. In fact, they were kind of getting pinned back in their own half. Eventually, the Red Bulls would get their second goal. It's Caceres Jr. who scores a wonderful free kick, definitely a goal of the week contention, to make it 2-0 at that point. It was almost 3-0 in favor of the Red Bulls, as Fabio just heads it wide. Yearwood then probably should have made it 3-0 after he went through on goal, but unfortunately he chipped that one wide in the 75th minute. Then Galese was able to deny Fabio in the 79th minute, and the Red Bulls was just completely in control of this game, and it looked like they were going to get that third goal sooner or later, but Orlando City would make this game interesting. And in the 84th minute, it's Sylvester Vanderwater scoring his first MLS goal, as he scores from Akindele and Smith. And then 3 minutes later, it looked like Vanderwater might have got a surprising equalizer, but he missed an absolute sitter from close range. And the Red Bulls, well, they basically went from pretty much controlling this game to really had a bit of a scare late in this one. But ultimately, they did hold on to win 2-1 in this one. As the shots in this one, 14 shots compared to 6 that Orlando City has, 7 shots on goal compared to 2 that Orlando City has, 4 shots off target compared to 2 that Orlando City has, 3 shots that was blocked compared to 2 that Orlando City has. And Orlando City actually had the better of the possession, 58% possession compared to 42% possession. But at the end of the day, the Red Bulls were in complete control in this game. And for Orlando City, it's obviously tough that coming into this game without their best player, they was always going to struggle. But you also kind of get a sense that they desperately want DK back into this team. Like, this team has really struggled in terms of scoring goals, and while their defense have been absolutely stellar in the past couple of weeks, that was not the case in this game. And when you of course do struggle to score goals, that does put a lot of pressure on your defense, and sometimes you might put too much pressure on your defense where if you concede a couple of goals, that you're probably not going to come back into the game if you're struggling to put the ball into the back of the net. But now moving on, in terms of the next match, as I'm going to put the timestamp here and look for the game that I of course put, because I actually didn't put these games in order when I wrote it down here on the notebook, and that of course is FC Cincinnati versus New England, and this might have been the most entertaining 1-0 game I've ever seen in MLS history. Like, I'm not even exaggerating how crazy this game was, and the fact that this game actually only ended 1-0 says a lot. The fact that both goalkeepers were having a goalkeeping duo during this game. But in the first half, 6 minutes in, Buchanan did blaze one high before Vermeer absolutely robbed Carlos Hill from close range. And then on the follow-up, it looked like there was a couple of Reds players looking to try to put one in, but unfortunately they weren't able to do so. But I thought early on, New England they were looking to threatening to get an early goal. But then FC Cincinnati started to show some life. Turner then denied Lacadia in the 18th minute before Lacadia had a big opportunity to get Cincinnati the opening goal, but he blazed that one wide. The momentum, you can clearly see in the beginning it was in favor of New England, but it quickly swing into Cincinnati favor. In fact, the crowd at TQL Stadium, as soon as Cincinnati was putting the pressure on New England, you can definitely hear the buzz of that crowd. And obviously, even though Cincinnati is really struggling this season, you gotta admire how their crowd is still fully behind this team, and you can just sense that there's an energy that eventually they are going to get that opening goal. Now, just a couple of minutes later, Turner would deny Brenier in the 22nd minute before Buchanan hits it high over the board. And really, this is when I basically put, this game is just going nuts. Like, this has just been back and forth, and the momentum seems to be swing back and forth in terms of which team can potentially get the opening goal. Then Alan Cruz in the 35th minute cleared a Brendan By shot off the line before McNamara got victimized by the post in the 38th minute before Vermeer in the 39th minute denied Carlos Hill. And I also wrote at this point the shots in this game was 14-5 in favor of New England. And even though that stats might feel like New England was completely in control of this game, remember, as I mentioned earlier, around the 20th minute mark, Cincinnati was really putting the pressure on New England, and it just seems like after that pressure that Cincinnati put, New England basically took the momentum back, and it was Cincinnati turn to basically absorb all those pressure. Then 1 minute later, Vermeer would tip Buxa's shot off the post, so the shots are now at 15-5 in favor of New England, before Vermeer would rob Brendan By, who puts a bullet of a shot from 25 yards out, and somehow, in some way, we head to halftime 0-0 in this game. Now, in the second half, McNamara did blaze one high from long range before Buxa probably should have scored 1 minute later after he missed a dangerous ball that was coming into the box. I mean, he basically just missed a tap in during that stretch. Acosta then hits one wide from 25 yards out in the 66th minute, but finally in the 70th minute, we finally got Art Salver opening goal of this game, and it's Adam Buxa, who has been just red hot in these past couple of weeks. I think this is the 4th consecutive games that he has ended up on the goal scoring chart, but he scores from Carlos Hill to make it 1-0 in favor of New England. Brenier then tried to respond in the 77th minute, but he hits one wide from long range. Cincinnati was really pushing for an equalizer. Turner absolutely robbed Brendan Vasquez, who was going through on goal in the 82nd minute. And then just to show you how this game was just so off the rail from beginning to end, literally on the final kick of this game, Jeff Cameron sets one high on a header, and that's when the full-time whistle was blown. Like, you couldn't blow the full-time whistle at a perfect time right after really what has just been a crazy game between both of these teams. Like, again, even though this game ended 1-0, and if you actually didn't watch this game, you might think this was a boring game, but when you actually watched it, yeah, this was just a back and forth affair. And you got to give a lot of credit to both keeper Kenneth Vermeer and Matt Turner really getting their pay cut in this game. But in the end, it was Matt Turner, the one that was the better goalkeeper in terms of this goalkeeping duel, and that his team, of course, were able to get a 1-0 win. And for Cincinnati, this is definitely a long list of frustration of the way to find themselves losing a game. Like, Cincinnati has found a lot of ways to potentially lose a game, and this is probably one of the ones that I don't think their fans are going to be pretty frustrated about this one, because at least they really create some chances and actually put up a very entertaining kind of game. And if you're a team that is losing and you kind of play some entertaining soccer as Cincinnati seems to play in this game, I don't think they will mind in terms of that. Although if you ask any Cincinnati fans, they'll probably mind and say that, yeah, we want to play entertaining soccer, but we also want to get points on the board, and we do not want to win the wooden spoon for the third year in a row. But either way, moving on, after that crazy game that we just talked about, is going to be Columbus versus Toronto. So Columbus, of course, getting a 2-1 victory in this one, and for the first time this season, Columbus actually had a player that is not named Lucas Zarian as the only goal scored for their team. And in fact, Zarian actually didn't even end up on the score sheet in this one, and they also registered their first assist in this game, because the previous 3 goals that the crew scores so far this season has been or actually the previous 6 goals that the crew have scored so far this season has either been own goal or Lucas Zarian making an amazing free kick goal, as we saw in that last game against NYCFC. Now, early in this game, Akinola did drag one wide from 20 yards out before Columbus would get on the score sheet. It's Diaz scoring from Pedro Santos, and this was just TFC kind of just made a classic Quakes mistake. And the reason why I say that is because you know how the San Jose Earthquakes always tends to bring everybody forward in terms of a corner, and while that might be a good strategy in terms of having the man advantage to attack a corner, if you don't win that corner, you basically leave yourself exposed at the back. And in this case, TFC, I think they were committing way too many men forward. And once that ball was pretty much played the other way on the counterattack, I mean, Luis Diaz was just wide open. He was basically off to the races with the way that he was going, and it was just a matter of whether or not if he can show the composure to put it into the back end net, which that is exactly what he did. And yeah, Columbus getting a 1-0 lead, and also for the first time a goal scorer not named Lucas Zarian gets on the score sheet for Columbus, and also Santos getting the team's first assist of the season. Then De Leon just 5 minutes later tried to respond, but he hits one wide from 21 yards out. Zardes did score the second goal of this game, but the goal, of course, was disallowed for offside. But 3 minutes later, he would have a goal that would count. And actually, originally, this goal looked like it was rule offside, but they did go to VAR to check to see whether or not if that is the case. They said it isn't, so Zardes, of course, were rewarded the goal as he scored from Santos and Etienne to make it 2-0 in favor of Columbus. But even though Columbus were up 2-0 in this game, they were kind of a little bit uncomfortable because TFC were looking to try to quickly respond. De Leon did have a chance in the 35th minute, but he thundered it one wide over the bar. And again, despite the score, the chances and the shots have been relatively even in this game, but Columbus does have that 2-0 lead heading into the second half. Now in the second half, Toronto would get that goal back, and it's Akinola that of course gets the goal back for TFC. And originally Room did make a great save on Richie Larea, but unfortunately this one just bounced right back to Akinola, and you got to question Columbus in terms of that. They're defending of the fact that they did not clear the ball away and let that ball rebounded right into Akinola. Pozuelo was then summoned for TFC just 3 minutes later. This is the first time that Pozuelo basically played for this TFC team this season after he's been injured for the past couple of weeks. And he almost made a magical moment just a couple of minutes later coming in as he's tried to score one off balance, but unfortunately it goes wide. Then Bono would romp Williams, who had a free header in this game. I didn't think Bono had a bad game in this one. I mean, I know TFC fans will say that he had a bad game in this one because he conceded the 2 goals, but I really think the 2 goals that he conceded, there was really nothing he can do in this one. But late in this game, Toronto did try to push for the equalizer, and then in the 96th minute, Eloy Room with a game-saving save, denying Michael Bradley, who had a free header into the box. And yeah, I mean, that save kind of really reminds me of the Galese save just a week ago, where, you know, Galese basically robbed NYCFC a chance to potentially get all 3 points in the game. Or it was actually, no, it wasn't NYCFC, but it was actually TFC who basically they had a chance to basically win the game, but Orlando City was able to hold on, or actually not hold on, but Galese was able to make the big save to kind of preserve that 1-0 victory. And actually, now that I'm saying it, that game actually didn't end in a draw. It actually ended in a 1-0 victory against Orlando City. Again, it's very late in the night. It's been a very long day, and I'm getting very tired right now and kind of forget some of the things. So if I say something that isn't actually correct, then I at least have the excuse saying that I'm basically recording this 1:05 in the morning here in Salt Lake City. But yeah, that of course game-saving save that Room made was really the final action of this game, as Columbus would hold on to win 2-1 in this game. Shots in this one, 9 shots compared to 12 that Toronto has, 6 shots on goal compared to 3 that Toronto has, 2 shots off target compared to 7 that Toronto has, 1 shot that was blocked compared to 2 that Toronto has, and both teams had 50% possession apiece. Oh, also, by the way, I forgot to mention the stats for the New England versus Cincinnati game, and you know, just to show you how that game was just so crazy. The final shot total, 13 shots compared to 26 shots that New England has in that game. 4 shots on goal compared to 6 that New England has. 6 shots off target compared to 10 that New England has. 3 shots that was blocked compared to 10 that New England has. And New England had 57% possession compared to 43% possession in that game. And basically there was like 39 shots combined in that game, which usually for an MLS game, that is definitely extremely high, and pretty much just shows you that must have been a very entertaining game with the way that there was just so much shots that was in. Although at the same time, if you are a defensive mindset kind of head coach, that has to give you nightmare. This fact that you have your team conceded so many shots in a game and was constantly put under pressure. But in the game that I talked about between Toronto and Columbus, this was a pretty normal game with both teams getting 21 combined shots, which is kind of on average of how many shots we usually get in an MLS game. But now moving on, in terms of the next match, is going to be Atlanta versus Nashville. And I'll tell you what, Nashville did it again. I mean, I don't know what is it with Nashville SC going down 2-0 this season and able to rescue themselves a draw, but they did it again in this one. And in some way, this one feels a little bit different compared to the first 2-1, where, you know, the first 2-1, they kind of went down 2-0 early in the game and then roared back to tie it 2-2 and had tons of opportunity to make it 3-2, but weren't able to do so. This one, they were pretty much being dominated by Atlanta throughout the entire game, and yet somehow, in some way, Nashville was able to score 2 quick goals in this game to really steal a point away from Atlanta at Mercedes-Benz Stadium. But in the first half, 6 minutes into the game, Marcelino Moreno would score from Robinson to make it 1-0 in favor of Atlanta. And that actually is the first goal that Nashville has conceded in 400 plus minutes. They did not concede a goal in their previous 4 games, and really I thought that was one of the first time I actually see a rare mistake from this Nashville SC backline, because this Nashville SC backline has been lights out in these past couple of games. But this one, it was just a simple long ball that was coming in, and Marcelino Moreno basically just beat 3 Nashville players and scored that one, and that's just something you do not see that happen with a Nashville SC defense. And I think that has to drive Gary Smith crazy with how bad that defending was from Nashville SC. But just 7 minutes later, Atlanta almost scored a second goal as again another long ball that was coming into the box that Moreno was able to find it, but Zimmerman, who was actually one of the free defenders that was at fault for that first goal, he makes up for it as he was able to block that shot. Then Willis would rob Lopez, who was going through on goal before Leal almost scored against the run of plays for Nashville, but the goal was disallowed for offside. Moreno did drive one that goes wide in the 26th minute, but Atlanta, they were definitely dominating this match and was looking to try to get the second goal, but Nashville did try to get a surprising equalizer as Cadiz tried to do a Rubin bicycle kick, but unfortunately he missed high before Moreno did get a yellow card in the 41st minute for simulation. And I like how the Atlanta fans basically kind of celebrated, thinking that they of course got a penalty after the yellow card was coming out, but then they realized that that yellow card was not on the defender, but it was more on their attacker that basically dive in the box. And obviously Atlanta fans were not happy about that. Even some probably had some choice words toward the referee, but when you look on the replay, it is pretty clear that is a clear dive. And usually we don't see referee tends to go pick or go to his book for simulation, but that one was just so egregious that you knew that the referee was going to basically get out his car for simulation during that play. But we head to halftime with Atlanta leading 1-0 in this game. And in the second half, it's Joseph Martinez's turn to try to do a Rubin, but unfortunately he missed that one high on the bicycle kick. But Atlanta would make it 2-0 in this game. And Eric Lopez, who of course had a big opportunity to score early in this game, he made amends of it as he scored from Bello and Moreno to make it 2-0 in favor of Atlanta. But again, Lopez just a couple of minutes later had another opportunity to make it free and probably should have made it free as he went through on goal, but this time he missed that one wide despite the fact that he was going through on goal. Then there was a penalty shout for Atlanta as Martinez thought that he was brought down in the box. But then in the 80th minute, this is when the game basically decided to take a huge U-turn as Hani Mukhtar would get one back for Nashville as he scored from Lovitz and Lagarza, and not long after he would score again from Baji in the 83rd minute. And in a span of 3 minutes, Atlanta were 2-0 up and were looking all comfortable, but now all of a sudden they are now getting back to 2-2. And as soon as Mukhtar of course scored that goal, and actually before Mukhtar scored that second goal that ties the game for Nashville, there was about 40,000 Atlanta fans that was doing that kind of knockoff ATL Viking clap. And as soon as Mukhtar basically scored it, it basically stopped them from doing the Viking clap, because I'm pretty sure 40,000 Atlanta fans was in stun the fact that they gave up the second goal. And again, they were pretty much dominated throughout 80 minutes of this game, and then just kind of a lapse of concentration that they had in this game meant that Nashville were able to take advantage in scoring those two goals. And that of course also, in terms of the scoreline being at 2-2 between both of these teams, would be the final score of this game. As the shots in this one, 12 shots compared to 14 that Nashville has. Both teams had 5 shots on goal. Both teams also had 5 shots off target. 2 shots that was blocked with the 4 that Nashville has. And possession-wise, 61% possession compared to 39% possession that Nashville has. And again, for Nashville, this is kind of a 2-0 comeback that they had for the third time this season. That really, this is the first time where I say that they probably got very fortunate that they were able to come back 2-0 in this one, considering the fact that they were dominating in this game. But again, for Atlanta, this has got to be a game that they have to win. Like, if they want to continue to make progress and show why they are considered one of the best team in the Eastern Conference, this is kind of a game that they have to get a win. But instead, they just kind of let this one slip, and they had to settle for only a point coming out of this game. But now, moving on into the last game on this board, is going to be LAFC versus NYCFC. And how about NYCFC? I mean, really against all odds in this game, even though when they find themselves 1-0 down in this game, they were able to show some resiliency to get the equalizer. And then them getting themselves down to 10 men for the last couple of minutes, somehow in some way they still were able to find a winner late in this game to really get stole all 3 points away from LAFC coming into this one. Now, in the first half, I thought there was really not much happened in the first 20 minutes. In fact, most of the action actually happened in the second half. But LAFC did kind of start dominate possession and kind of control the game after the 20th minute mark. There was a man scramble in the 28th minute in the NYCFC box, but no LAFC player was able to put it in. Rossi then hits it straight to Sean Johnson in the 37th minute, as that was really the last chance to speak of in the first half, and we head to the second half goalless between both of these teams. Now in the second half, that goalless this kind of match would no longer be the case, because in the 10th minute of the second half, and specifically the 55th minute, Corey Bear would open the scoreline in this game as he scored for Marc-Anthony Kaye and Rossi to give LAFC a 1-0 lead. Then there was an appeal for a penalty for LAFC, as Atuesta thought that he was tripped by Chanel just 2 minutes later after LAFC got that opening goal, but I thought that was not a penalty, because it definitely looked like Atuesta kind of embellished that a little bit. But after that, I thought NYCFC started to kind of dominate possession, and LAFC, they were kind of just happy to sit back, which is something we don't usually see with LAFC. Well, at least recently we kind of seen it a little bit more often, but when you look at LAFC, you would think that this team is usually a team that just continue to dominate and just continue to put the pedal to the metal to score that second goal, and maybe even go 3 or 4 goals to dominate this game. But that just did not happen, and NYCFC was starting to get a foothold in this game, and they eventually would be rewarded for getting a foothold and started to put some pressure on LAFC as they get the equalizer in the 70th minute. It's Jesus Medina who has had an incredible start to his season, as he scored from Tinnerholm to tie the game up at 1 apiece. But you also would say that this is a gift that LAFC just gave to NYCFC, because this was just a poor giveaway for LAFC at the back, and Tinnerholm basically take advantage of the giveaway at the back, put a perfect ball to Medina, who slots it home to tie the game up at 1 apiece. Then Raheem Edwards did have a chance to give LAFC the lead back, but his short-range effort goes straight to Sean Johnson before Johnson almost gift-wrapped it a goal to Carlos Vela, and he actually passed this ball right to Carlos Vela. And actually, Sean Johnson is not the last goalkeeper that actually almost avoided a goalkeeping howler against an LA team, because we will have another goalkeeper that almost gift-wrapped the other LA team a goal in this game. But in this incident, for Vela, I don't know why exactly he decided to be a little bit unselfish during that play. Like, I understand that Vela, he tends to sometimes be a little bit unselfish and set up a goal for his teammate, but he was going through on goal. Like, you would think Vela should basically think about striking this one and putting into the back of net, but no, instead he just kind of trying to be unselfish, and because of that, he didn't really get it right in terms of the pass to his teammate, and therefore Sean Johnson not only escaped with a potential goalkeeping howler not going to be in his name, but that clearly should have been a 2-1 lead, and LAFC should have retook the lead up to that point. And it also would turns out to be costly in this game, because in the 84th minute, Tajuri Shradi did try to curl one in, but that one hits the post, and that turns out to be a warning shot from Tajuri Shradi. But then, I also thought that this game was up for grabs, and then in the 85th minute, it seems like we had a big turning point as Acevedo actually got his second yellow card. And just to tell you why I do not like the Twitter commentator and why the Twitter commentators really suck, like, they keep saying that, wait, where's this second yellow card come from? We never seen him get a yellow card. Did you realize that in the 65th minute that Acevedo basically got a yellow card? And I mean, I know that there's a lot of things to kind of keep track of it, but it's only been 20 minutes since he got that yellow card. Like, you can't have that short of a memory loss to forget that he, of course, got a yellow card early in this game. And they kind of continue to debate on that and thought that it was a mistaken identity. But it's pretty clear on the box score, Acevedo got a yellow card early in this game. And because of that bad tackle that he put on, he, of course, get his second yellow card. And, with the last 5 minutes with LAFC being a man up, you were thinking that maybe LAFC could take advantage of it. But if there's one thing that I'm kind of starting to see with LAFC, and, I've been seeing them being up a man for the past couple of time, ever since they came into the league, they tend to struggle when they're up a man. I mean, we kind of saw this happening a couple of times ago when they were playing against the Quakes, where the Quakes were down to 10 men when the Quakes were up 2-1, and yet the Quakes still find a way to score a goal despite the fact that they're down 10 men. And here for NYCFC, they would score. They would follow the Quakes' footstep and score a goal right at the end of the game despite being down to 10 men. And it is going to be Tajuri Shradi, the one that scored the what would be the winning goal of this game, as he scored from Castellanos to make it 2-1 in favor of NYCFC. Maswowski did have a late chance to get a last gap equalizer for LAFC, but Sean Johnson was able to deny him. But yeah, NYCFC, they walk out of Bank of California Stadium with all 3 points, something that not many team has been able to do, not only this season, but really ever since the stadium was built a couple of years ago. And for LAFC, this result has got to have a lot of concern, because it's one thing that they did get an impressive, well, actually not impressive, but unconvincing win against the Colorado Rapids in the last game. But if this LAFC team is going to try to show that they are considered one of the best team in the league and should consider MLS Cup contender, they should not be losing these kind of games, and should not be losing to teams that should be playoff contender. And I know NYCFC is probably not going to be a team and LAFC is going to face in the playoffs unless they meet against each other in MLS Cup. But there's been teams that LAFC have lost that have either been right around the level that NYCFC is, or even above the level that NYCFC is. And again, if you want to be an MLS Cup contender and you want to basically win MLS Cup, you have to eventually face the best of the best. And so far, from what I've seen with LAFC, they have really had a lot of problem in terms of trying to get resort against the best team in the league. I mean, I have no problems by saying that LAFC, I feel like they are going to make the playoffs, because I still feel like they're too good in terms of the squad they have to miss the playoffs. But when they do face against those good teams, and let's say if they do face Seattle again in the playoffs, I mean, these past couple resort against good teams where they have not been able to get all 3 points, that is a very concerning factor of their chances to potentially go deep into the playoffs this season. But that being said, I am now going to actually erase this board and put up the last 5 games that happened in today's Saturday action. So I forgot to mention the stats for the LAFC versus NYCFC game. It was both teams having 10 shots in the game, 5 shots on goal compared to 4 that NYCFC had, 2 shots off target compared to 6 that NYCFC had, 3 shots that was blocked compared to none that NYCFC had, and possession-wise, 60% possession compared to 40% possession that NYCFC had in that game. But now moving on, in terms of the next match, is Inter Miami versus DC United. So after today, we found out that Inter Miami basically got their hands caught in the cookie jar and basically got slapped $3 million, or actually I think it was $2 million in terms of the fine of them pretty much underreporting some players' salaries. And it turns out later, not only the fact that they were underreporting Matuidi's salary and that Matuidi contract that should have been a DP contract, but they actually had another player that should have occupied a DP contract, and it was actually Andrea Pereira that should have been occupied a DP contract because the salary basically reached that threshold. So they basically had 5 DPs in their inaugural season, and you cannot have 5 DPs in your team, let alone 4 DP in your team, and hence that's why Inter Miami is basically getting a hefty fine. But it seems like the MLS gods feel like they haven't suffered enough, because in this game against DC United, oh boy, this was a miserable game if you were an Inter Miami fan. But in the first half, 14 minutes in, Ola Kamara would score to make it 1-0 in favor of Inter Miami. As I'm going to put this camera up a little bit here. There we go. So yeah, Ola Kamara would get the opening goal of this game, and this basically came off of a WTF turnover from Miami and from Figao alone. And then DC would double that lead just 7 minutes later. It's Areola that scored from Perez and Kamara to make it 2-0 in favor of Inter Miami, or no, 2-0 in favor of DC United. Carranza then hit one just wide in the 34th minute before Perez blazed one high from close range in the 37th minute, and then Matt Tweedy did try to tie the game up, or at least get one back for Inter Miami in this game, but unfortunately he missed the target, and we head to halftime with Inter Miami leading 2-1 against DC United. Now, in the second half, Higuain did blaze one high from long range in the 50th minute. There was a coming together between both of these teams, and that's all. I'll leave it to that because, you know, it was kind of more than just a coming together where things kind of got a little bit ugly and players really kind of pushing and shoving. Although there was only I think one yellow card issue during that incident, and there was no red card issue, despite the fact that coming together kind of got a little bit ugly in bit. And then let's see. Hamid then denied Figao in the 65th minute, and that Miami did start to kind of look to have some life and started to try to have some pushback and get one goal back, but instead 5 minutes later, Kamara would make it 3-0 in favor of DC United as he scored from Areola and Felipe. Hamid then would deny Higuain late in the game to preserve a clean sheet for DC United, which is exactly what they got in this game. As the shots in this one, 10 shots compared to 13 that DC United has. Both teams had 3 shots on goal. Both teams also had 6 shots off target. 1 shot that was blocked for the 4 that DC United has, and possession-wise, 57% possession compared to 43% possession that DC United has. So, you know, that probably is the only stat that maybe make Inter Miami fans happy, because otherwise this was definitely a miserable game for them. And, you know, I don't know what else to say about this team other than the fact that, yeah, you know, this team has really started to reach meme status with the way that they're basically breaking rules and trying to make some illegal kind of signings and try to gain an advantage in the league, and yet they still somehow find a way to look like one of the worst team in the league despite doing that. But for DC United, you know, this is something that I feel like when you look at the past couple of games, this feels like it's been coming with the way that I talk about how this DC team, you know, despite the fact that they did lose their last 2 games by a final score of 1-0, I thought they were definitely creating a lot of chances, and it's just that it feels like even though their expectancy goal is very high, they just don't really have anyone to basically be a clinical finisher. Well, Ola Kamara basically decided to kind of take that personally in this game and basically decided that, you know what, I'm just going to be that clinical finisher. And the same goes with Paul Areola, where, you know, this was a game where DC, not only they had the chances to score goals in this game, but they actually buried those chances compared to the last 2 games where they weren't able to do so. Now, moving on, in terms of the next match, is going to be the Cali Clasico between the Galaxy versus the Quakes. And, you know, there's really 2 ways I can look at this loss for the Quakes. One way I can look at this is that this could have been more than 1-0 in favor of the Galaxy. Like, the Galaxy had tons of chances in this game, and they could have made it 3 or 4-0, and they should have killed this game off in the second half. But on the other way, I can also say that the Quakes probably should have won this game if it wasn't for Jonathan Bond really stood on his heads again. And I'll tell you what, he is already starting to get some conversation of not only being the newcomer of the year, but maybe even the goalkeeper of the year with some of the incredible save that he has been making in these first couple of games. Now, in the first half, the Galaxy, I thought they looked good early in this game, but Bond did deny Chofes in the 9th minute before Alvarez missed wide from 19 yards out in the 15th minute. But this is also when the Galaxy started to really put some pressure on the Quakes. Beeson then cleared Cabrera shots off the line. I thought Cabrera was very unlucky to not get a goal in this game. Then in the 30th minute, JT, he got away with a horrendous giveaway, and something very similar to what I said earlier with Sean Johnson, basically just passed the ball right to Carlos Vela. Well, this time it was him pass the ball right to Alvarez, but he did, of course, make up for it by denying him there from the spot. Stearns then, of course, struck the post, and on the of that. Dos Santos tried to drive one, but of course it was clear off the line by Tommy Thompson. So again, the Galaxy, they were definitely threatened to trying to get that opening goal. Cabrera then had another shot in the 39th minute, but it just missed wide. And really, I kind of also wrote, there was just too many wasteful chances by the Galaxy, but also the Quakes are very fortunate that they were not 1-0 down heading into halftime. So as we go into the second half with this Cali Clasico tied at 0-0, Kate Cal then had a big opportunity at the hour mark, but he hits one straight to Jonathan Bond, and then Bond robbed Wando as Wando had a chance to basically hits one from short range, but Bond with a great save to deny him there. And then in the 70th minute, the opening goal of this game finally happened, and it's the Galaxy that gets the opening goal. Although they did not score this opening goal, it was actually one of the Quakes player that of course scored the opening goal of this game, as Tanner Beeson unfortunately scored an own goal in this instant. And that was just one of those instances where Beeson was kind of in the wrong place at the wrong time, trying to clear that shot away, but unfortunately kind of didn't do a good job and just kind of puts it into his own net. I'm definitely not putting this game on Tanner Beeson. I mean, I thought he had an incredible game in this one, and as I mentioned, he had a goal line clearance that could have easily given LA Galaxy the opening goal in this game. Now in the 72nd minute, Cabrera then tried to curl one wide from 20 yards out, but it missed wide. The Galaxy was really pushing for that second goal to try to kill this game, but again, they weren't able to do so, and for the last 12 minutes of this game, it looked like the Quakes were potentially going to try to not only show some pushback, but also get that equalizer. But this is also when Jonathan Bond decided to pretty much turn into a super secret agent, and basically decided to not allow anyone past his net. It all started in the 78th minute when Bond was able to rob Rios, who went through on goal. Then 3 minutes later, Bond with an incredible double save, once again robbing Rios, but also robbing Salinas on the follow-up. And also when I saw that moment, I kind of had a feeling that, the Quakes are not going to score. Like, I just have a feeling that this is not only Jonathan Bond stewing on his heads to keep this 1-0 lead, but also I've seen this story before with the Quakes where they miss chances, and I just have a feeling there's not going to get a goal to tie the game up. And also, I like how at the end of the game, just for good measure, the commentator basically sneak in the signature James Bond line. Basically said his name is Jonathan Bond, and I just had a kind of good chuckle, even though I know the Quakes of course lost in the game, and I probably shouldn't have a chuckle after the Quakes just lost to our biggest rival. And I also mentioned how big this game means to Quakes fans, and it's utterly disappointing to see the Quakes of course lose this game and have now lost 4 in a row coming into this one. But I thought it was a kind of a good chuckle of him saying that line, and I just had a feeling eventually somebody's going to mention it. Like, I feel like so far with the Galaxy being on national television a lot, there has been a lot of Bonds reference ever since Jonathan Bond started to make some big save, and it makes sense because his last name basically goes by the same as that famous character of a famous movie that we all know of. But the shots in this one, 18 shots compared to 21 that the Galaxy has. So I talk about how earlier in that Cincinnati versus New England game of how crazy that game was. Well, this was also kind of something similar to that. Although this one, in terms of the chances, there were some chances that it was relatively easily dealt with the goalkeeper, and it's not like that FC Cincinnati versus New England game where there was just some really golden opportunity that the goalkeeper was just making an incredible save to keep the game at 0-0 as long as possible. But in terms of the shot total, the combining shot is still kind of the same as the one that we got in the New England FC Cincinnati game, where this game also had 39 shots in combined, 12 shots on goal compared to 8 that the Galaxy had, 5 shots off target compared to 8 that the Galaxy had, 1 shot that was blocked compared to 5 that the Galaxy had, and possession-wise, both teams had 50% possession in this game. And the only thing I can say about the Quakes coming out of this game is that at least they're going to be going through a summer break or a little mini summer break. As I mentioned, MLS is not going to be back until the middle of June, and I'll tell you what, the Quakes desperately need this free week break off, because this has just been this has been a disastrous May ever since remember how this team were at the top of the table, and they basically won 3 out of their first 4 games, and there was definitely a lot of hype. This is why I said before, as a Quakes fan, I always take cautious optimism and sometimes maybe take some pessimism in terms of this team, because even in the good time, I had a feeling it's not going to last, and it is pretty clear in these last 4 games. It just clearly showed the problematic of the Quakes, and really the problematic of this Almeida system, where you could go through a period where you have the highs of highs, but it can quickly turn into the lows of lows, and unfortunately right now it seems like that is the case, where this team is clearly in the lows of the lows. But now moving on, in terms of the next match, is going to be Sporting KC versus Houston. Now, despite the fact that this game ends up to be a 3-2 win in favor of SKC, and you thought that this one might be actually a relatively close game, it really wasn't. I mean, this game, it was pretty much dominated by Sporting KC, but Houston kind of got a goal out of nowhere in the first half and kind of got a goal against the run of play, and then SKC basically decided to take over SKC basically took over this game, but they eventually did cash in their opportunity in the second half. But as I said, in the first half, I thought SKC was on the front foot early, but instead it's Houston the one that gets the opening goal and gets the goal against the run of play. It's Mateus Vera that scores from Urruti and Pico to make it 1-0 in favor of the Dynamo. Kinda then flashed one wide in the 20th minute before Marco Maric absolutely stonewall Espinoza there, who basically hits that one not only on the volley but hits it so sweetly, but somehow Marco Maric was able to save that one. Martins then had a long-range effort that goes wide before Maric once again denying Shelton on the header, and again SKC, they were dominating this game in the first half, and yet the scoreboard says Houston has the 1-0 lead, but that lead unfortunately would not last heading into the second half. But before that, Shari did have a shot that was clear off the line by Lundqvist, but little did we know that would be eventually led to the inevitable, which is SKC getting that opening goal, and they got that opening goal in style as Busio scored what could be a contention for goal of the week, where he hits a free kick in a perfect spot to tie the game up at 1 apiece for SKC. But then just 5 minutes later, it looked like Houston were looking to try to score a goal against the run of play, as Urruti actually find himself going through on goal, but Melia was able to rob him during that play. Then in the 59th minute, there was a penalty awarded to Sporting KC, as Polito was hacked down in the box by Fafa Pico, and Polito of course stepped into the penalty spot, and he made no mistake whatsoever, putting that one away to give SKC a well-deserved lead in this game. And then just 5 minutes later, they would make it 3-1 in favor of Houston, as Gadi Kinde would score from Busio and Shelton to make it 3-1, and that was just some beautiful soccer that I saw from SKC. Like, the build-up of this play was some of the one that was kind of like Man City level kind of build-up that we saw in that play. And also, by the way, speaking of Man City, I would also want to thank them for giving Chelsea their second Champions League trophy after today. I know I cannot resist in terms of talking about that. I'm still absolutely over the moon after what I saw today, and which is also why I didn't really mind the fact that Minnesota didn't really play well in this game, and that I didn't really kind of mind that Minnesota, even if they don't win this game, I'm obviously going to be very happy after seeing Chelsea just becoming the champion of Europe. But going back to this, SKC again, after getting that third goal, they definitely did not feel like they were satisfied yet. They were pushing for that fourth goal. Maric then denied Busio in the 82nd minute on the free kick, as Busio was looking to try to repeat what he did with that first goal that he scored, but Maric was able to deny him during that play. And then as the time winds down, Houston did get a consolation goal. It's Urruti that scored from Hamic and Serin to score the consolation goal for the Dynamo. But again, it was a consolation goal because the Dynamo didn't really have any time to get that third goal, and that Sporting KC were able to win 3-2 in this one. Shots in this one, 21 shots compared to 9 that Houston has, 9 shots on goal compared to 4 that Houston has, 4 shots off target compared to 3 that Houston has, 8 shots that was blocked compared to 3 that Houston has, and possession-wise, 68% possession compared to 68% possession compared to 32% possession that the Houston Dynamo has in this game. And again, I know the scoreline might seem like this might have been a very close game, but when you actually look at this game, it was just kind of almost a one-way traffic where Houston, some of the goals they scored, well, at least one of them was against the run of plays, and then the other one was pretty much when the game was already pretty much set and done. But now moving on into the next game and the penultimate game before I'm almost done with this review and almost can basically go to sleep and don't have to worry about basically waiting to upload this video. Like, after when this video is basically going to be uploaded, I'm just going to go straight to bed because it's close to about 2 in the morning right now here in Salt Lake City. But the next game is going to be the Colorado Rapids against FC Dallas, and this was probably one of the least surprising result of this week because, as expected, Colorado was able to win 3-0 in this game and look comfortably by doing so against FC Dallas. There was a couple of half chances early for both of these teams, but it's Rosenberry that scores the first goal of this game from Jack Price, and what a laser beam this was from Rosenberry, and definitely in contention for goal of the week. Then Rubio had a chance to make it 2-0, but unfortunately he smacked the post. Then VAR did give Colorado a penalty after Mosqueda was brought down in the box, and that was actually the first time that Colorado actually had a penalty since 2019. So it's actually been a long time since the Rapids has got a penalty, and I was kind of surprised that they haven't got a penalty in that long. But unfortunately, they weren't able to take advantage of it because Jimmy Mao was able to deny Rubio from the spot, but not long after, Colorado would make amends of their missed penalty as they score that second goal, and they can actually thank Tanner Tessman for this because he unfortunately scored an own goal there that gave the Rapids a 2-0 lead, and that would be the scoreline heading into halftime. And in the second half, Yarbrough did rob Vargas as he pushed that one onto the post before Yarbrough did make another decent save, this time denying Paxton Palmico. And Dallas was starting to show some life and started to show some pushback, but Colorado made sure that Dallas didn't really have any hope left in this game because in the 70th minute, Michael Barrios would score to haunt his old team to make it 3-0 in favor of the Rapids, and he of course would score from Cole Bassett to also put this game to bed. Benesley almost made it 4-0, but unfortunately missed Hyde. But in the end, Colorado, as I mentioned, a very comfortable victory against FC Dallas, and the shots in this game, 13 shots in this one, and actually this cannot be right. It says here that Dallas had 21 shots. Yeah, that cannot not be right. I don't know, like the stats here, it says 13 shots compared to 21 that Dallas had, 5 shots on goal compared to 6 that Dallas. I think this might be reverse, and it's actually Colorado that has 21 shots compared to 13 that Dallas had, 6 shots on goal compared to 5 that Dallas had, 8 shots off target compared to 4 that Dallas had, 4 shots that was blocked compared to 7 that Colorado has, and Colorado had 65% possession compared to 35% possession. Keep in mind, I actually wrote the stats of this game during the time when I was basically changing the board. So again, since it's late at night, I might have made a mistake during that point, but at least I of course correct my mistake during this video. But that being said, now finally moving on into the last game of the night, and I'm so relieved that I'm finally at this point, which is now going to be talking about the game I win about 6 hours ago. Well, actually, no, it actually hasn't been six 6 hours, but more like I would say 5.5 hours because the game ended around 9:30. And that, of course, is none other than RSL versus Minnesota. And as I mentioned in the quick recap, this must be one of the most luckiest road point that Minnesota have I've ever seen, because this game, I didn't think the Loons were going to get anything out of this one. Like, this was a really poor performance by the Loons, and in many ways, they probably didn't deserve a point out of this game. But, RSL in this one, they kind of fall into the victim of what happened when you aren't able to kill this game off and let your opponent to basically stay in the game. And also they had a bit of a goalkeeping howler that gifted Minnesota the equalizer and ultimately a point out of this game. Now in the first half, not much happened in the first 10 minutes of this game. Rusnak did drive one wide from 19 yards out. I thought that was really the first opportunity of the game. But then just 1 minute later, Damar Krylak scores from Aaron Herrera to make it 1-0 in favor of RSL, and I didn't think that was good defending from Minnesota to basically leave Krylak wide open in the box for a tap-in. Like, that's the last guy you want to basically leave open in the box for a tap-in, but overall, I think Minnesota, in terms of their defense, they really look very well. Like, as ugly as this game is for the Loons, there's one positive that I did come out of this game is the fact that the Loons did defend it very well against RSL, but that's not a big surprise considering the fact that Debasi basically came back into the starting 11, and I kind of mentioned many times before, anytime when Debasi is in this back line, it has immediately stabilized this back line and make this back line much better compared to what we have seen from this Minnesota back line in the past couple of weeks. Now, Minnesota, I also wrote that they, of course, look terrible so far because they really didn't do anything in the game. They were sleepwalking coming into this one. Sonny Dotson did blaze one high from 24 yards out, as I thought that was the first real opportunity that Minnesota, the first real kind of a threat that they have going forward. But even that, I also thought that the attack just looked so predictable, and I kind of mentioned it in my quick recap where it was basically their attacking plan is basically just hopefully pass the ball onto the flank and cross it into the box and hope that somebody, of course, will get to an end to it. And it just multiple times when they try to do that, it does not work whatsoever, and it was just so frustrating that I'm just kind of seeing that happen over and over again. And you want to talk about the definition of insanity? That was clearly the definition of insanity of what Minnesota was trying to do on the attack. Like, it's not working. Why in the world do you keep doing it? Like, even during the game, I was just so frustrated every time they tried to play the ball out wide, because I know what's going to happen. They're going to try to cross it into the box, and all that does is either going to let Zach McMath easily catch that one, or those crosses are not going to be on target whatsoever, and it's not even going to fret that RSL backline whatsoever. So very frustrated seeing the attack being very, very slow and also very predictable in this game. But in the 41st minute, Ja'Cory Hayes did hit one high from close range as RSL would head to halftime with a 1-0 lead. But in the second half, Unu then strike one from close range, but it goes high. I thought Unu, he kind of had an okay game in this one. I wouldn't say he had a game that is worth the price tag that Minnesota, of course, pay him to do so. But again, I'll give Unu a pass because he is new to this team, and it's going to take time for him to integrating into the system. I also felt like RSL was happy to kind of sit back and counter, and this is kind of the issue for RSL, where I understand that they want to do that, but they weren't having success in terms of trying to do so. And this is also kind of another example of a definition of insanity that RSL was basically showing, where if it's not working, why in the world are you just keep doing it, and why exactly they're going to keep trying to go on the counterattack when every time it just doesn't really lead to anything. But in the 62nd minute, Rusnak did hit the side netting as he was trying to cut into that one. There was really not much happening in the second half in terms of chances, as neither team not only have not done much on the attack, but they tend to invert the definition of insanity in terms of their attacking plan. But then in the 74th minute, Miller did deny Merrim for about 20 yards out. Before in the 78th minute, this is when Minnesota got their break. And originally I wrote Abila that scored this goal, but it actually wasn't Roman Abila that scored the goal. It was actually Nico Hansen, the one that of course scored the goal. So please disregard what I repeatedly said, that Abila was the one that of course got to that one. And also because that goal kind of happened on the other end where I was sitting, that's why I couldn't really tell whether or not if that was Abila or actually Nico Hansen. I mean, it definitely looked like it was Abila, the one that tapped it, or the one that of course scored that goal, but in the end it was actually Nico Hansen, the one of course scoring that goal and scoring his first goal for Minnesota in this game. But really, this was a gift from Zach McMath, and this is definitely a moment that Zach McMath definitely do not want to look back, because this should have been just a simple catch from him. I mean, I know Hansen did kind of gamble in terms of trying to get to the first, but really, Zach McMath, he has to get that first. Like, when you're a goalkeeper and the ball is coming to play, you got to make sure you're the first one to get there or even punch that one out, because if you don't do so, like what we saw in that play, that of course could happen. And yeah, that was an absolute gift that Minnesota of course have. I mean, I didn't even celebrate when they scored that goal, because I was in shock the fact that one went into the back of the net, and in some way we totally did not deserve that goal with the way how our attack of course looks. But that goal also seems to kind of wake up this RSL team a little bit, and also maybe a combination that Minnesota was going with their typical Minnesota kind of tactics, or typical Adrian Heath kind of tactics, which is they're just going to park the bus and just be complacent to just get a point on the road. Because in the 83rd minute, Brody did try to hit one on the volley but missed wide. Pablo Ruiz then puts it wide as RSL was really starting to press for the equalizer. Tyler Miller then denied Merrim in this game. I thought Tyler Miller had a good game. I mean, besides that scary kind of moment in the 89th minute where he kind of bobbled a ball that was coming toward him, he was absolutely flawless in this one, and was kind of one of the reasons why Minnesota was in this game for so long, and especially able to preserve this 1-1 draw in this game. But speaking of which, that of course was the final score of this game, as the shot to this one, 12 shots for both of these teams, 5 shots on goal compared to just 1 shot on goal that Minnesota has. And that 1 shot on goal was the goalkeeping howler that was committed by Zach McMath. 6 shots off target compared to 8 that Minnesota has. 1 shot that was blocked compared to 3 that Minnesota has. And possession-wise, 47% possession compared to 53% possession that Minnesota has in that game. And, even though I know you would think that I would be happy with a point coming out of this game, because anytime when you're the road team and you can get a point, and especially in Minnesota cases, a team that doesn't usually do well on the road, you would think I'll be happy with a point. But the thing that kind of makes me frustrated about this game is not only the fact that I didn't think we deserve a point out of this game, but we're still having the same issue I've been seeing with this team throughout this season, which is they just do not do anything to look very lethal in front of goal. And this 3.5 week break that Minnesota has, I hope this is a time where Adrian he can really work on his team in terms of the attack, because there's just no way in the world we can keep relying on these kind of reserves. Like, we cannot keep relying on like some goalkeeping power that the other team committed, or maybe even a late goal that was scored like we did in that last game against FC Dallas to get us all 3 points. Because at some point, I talked about last year that Lady Luck basically was on Minnesota's side, and Lady Luck of course was continue on Minnesota's side, but eventually that luck is going to run out. And we saw last year that luck definitely run out in the game against the Seattle Sounders, and I'm just hoping this might be the same case again, but only it might happen a little bit earlier, and we might not have Lady Luck on our side throughout the entire part of the season. But yeah, that being said, also for RSL, they're going to be also very frustrated in this game, because they had that 1-0 lead for very long, only for that goalkeeping howler of course happening. But the good news is at least they know that Zach McMath is probably not going to be a first choice goalkeeper for him, and I'm still assuming maybe Putna is going to get his chance. Like, I was actually surprised Putna wasn't in goal for this game, but I have a feeling in the next one, or actually no, not the next one, because David Ochoa will be back with this team by the time this break is going to be over. But in case if Ochoa does go on another international break or go into the Gold Cup, I'm assuming Putna is going to get some opportunity as the backup goalkeeper for RSL in the future. But yeah, there you have it. That is pretty much it, and I'm done. In terms of doing this review, it's 2:16 in the morning right now. I probably should have been in bed about half an hour ago, but I'm still grinding here trying to do this review, and I'm also going to now pretty much just going to upload this review and hopefully upload this very late into the night. But this was really the only opportunity because I have to wake up early tomorrow, and once I wake up early tomorrow, I'm just gonna quickly pack everything. In fact, actually, I'm gonna pack everything right now and just kind of quickly check out the hotel, because again, I have well, I wouldn't say a relatively early flight, but I still need to, of course, get to the airport a little bit early tomorrow. And the hotel that I'm staying here in Salt Lake City, and it's actually not even in Salt Lake City, it's actually in a city or a suburb called Midville, which is one of the suburbs in Salt Lake City, and it actually takes a long time to get to the airport from the hotel that I am here. So that's why I have to get to the airport a little bit earlier than I usually do. But either way, hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you do, make sure you guys leave a like, smash the subscribe button, and yeah, I of course will see you guys next time.